You're like a circle that floats around me, keeping me safe and sound. And when I fall, you tied a rope to me.
Hey everyone, welcome back to She-Birds Podcast. Today's guest is Dr. Marni Hill. Hi, Dr. Marni Hill.
Hello, how are you, Brooke? Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Thank you so much for being a guest today on my podcast.
Sure.
So can you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your book that you wrote?
Well, sure. I've actually written 10 books, but the 4-book series that is out now is called True Deceit, False Love. And it is about surviving domestic violence, narcissistic abuse, and parental alienation. So I am bringing awareness to this unfortunate family trauma, and with words and with a workbook and with poetry to help others heal while I'm healing myself.
Wow, that's amazing. Quite a few guests that I've had on here, even celebrities that I've had on here, have been in domestic abuse relationships. They had parents who abused them, and I'm like, wow, even celebrities have, been in that situation. And I just want to know, how do you help someone heal from that? Like, how does that work? Because I'm still healing.
Yeah, well, it definitely is a process. And what I have found is knowledge is power. And so it's very important to understand what you have been through. And, what I have chosen to do with the first book of the True Deceit, False Love series, it is actually 15,555 terms and phrases on domestic violence, narcissistic abuse, and parental alienation. And just reading these terms can help you put the pieces of your own story together. This particular first book was prominently endorsed by Dr. Jennifer Harmon, who is a parental alienation researcher out of Colorado. And my foreword was written by Dr. Sam Vaknin. And I also have endorsement support from Lisa A. Romano, Tracy A. Malone, and Tamara Gerstemeyer Sweeney of Agape Love Dominates. And so these people have found value in what I'm doing. It's this particular first book is not a glossary, but it is definitely a list of terms for you to look up yourself while you are putting the pieces of the puzzle together in your own healing. And I have found that words have the power to really hurt people, but words also have the power to heal people. And so I am a lover of words. I'm a retired high school teacher for 35 years in the Chicago suburbs. I 12 of those years, I was an adjunct professor at Northern Illinois University. I have, since the last 3 years, moved out to the Caribbean to write, but also to get as far away from my abuser as possible. They still stalk you and harass you. And, they don't let their prey go easily. These are predators, as you probably are well aware. But I have found a lot of peace and healing being out in nature and surrounded by God's beautiful world. And so I have found that writing has been very helpful. And there are many different ways people can heal and can work through these traumas. But definitely knowledge is power, and education is very, very important. And so books 2 and 3, which will be released by Balboa Press Hay House in the next couple of weeks, are the one is an acrostic poetry book that has lots of information about different terms related to this kind of family intergenerational trauma. And then the third book is a survivor's workbook, so that if someone finds writing to be therapeutic for them, they could use this framework to help come to terms with what they've been through.
Mhm. Oh, I love that. I love that. If you don't mind, can you tell like your story of your abuse and how you got away from them? Like, what motivated you to finally say, "No, I've had enough"? Like,
Right. And I'll tell you, it took me 27 years.
wow.
Yeah, I was in a toxic marriage for 27 years, but there was a defining moment. The abusers, oftentimes, their mask slips and they
Mhm.
confess to some very wrongdoings. And if you're paying attention, you can catch it
Mhm.
and follow your gut intuition to get the heck out as fast as you
Mhm.
can. Um, Actually, it would be much better if you could plan your escape. But most of
Yes.
us are in the fight or flight mode, and we're just trying to get out of there. But yes, my ex husband confessed to some very immoral, illegal wrongdoings that just was my light bulb moment. That uh, just defined it for me. I had to get out. It didn't matter that I stayed for 27 years. I had tried the best that I possibly could to make the marriage work, and I
Mhm.
ignored so many red flags. There were just so many infidelities, so
Mhm.
many wrongdoings, so much gaslighting. You're made to believe that you are not capable, even though you're a very intelligent, capable individual.
Mhm.
And so after escaping that, and you don't, it's years. Like I filed for divorce in 2013,
Wow.
and my ex is still taking me to court, even though there were no minor children involved in the divorce.
Wow.
Because they just don't want to let go. They're obsessed with you. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter if they've moved on. In my
Mhm.
case, my ex is now engaged to be married to our next door neighbor that we lived next to for, I don't know, 15, 20 years, which I
Wow.
could care less about that,
Mhm.
but the thing is they could supposedly move on, but they don't move on. You still are their obsession. And but anyway, after escaping and trying to come to terms and getting to a safe place, as safe as I possibly can,
Mhm.
you start putting the pieces together of your own intergenerational abuse that
Mhm.
could involve your own father, in my case,
Mhm.
um, that was extremely abusive to my mother. Um,
Mhm.
and she, back in those days, she was not equipped to take care of herself. There weren't resources. There weren't
Mhm.
support groups. There wasn't a lot of literature on this. The abusers, really uh, do a number on their spouses. And
Mhm.
it wasn't until like in my 60s that I finally put the pieces together that I am actually a victim of intergenerational abuse. And what happens is the cycle continues unless you acknowledge it and
Mhm.
and put an end to it, at least bring awareness to it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I am alienated from
Mhm.
my children, and my children have their own struggles, of course, with a narcissistic, undiagnosed, of course, but a very abusive father.
Mhm.
um, you know, uh, they have to put the pieces of the puzzle together for their own lives. But lots of times that doesn't happen until they are in a situation where they pick a spouse or a partner who is extremely abusive, and
Mhm.
they might become alienated themselves. So like I said, it took me years to figure it out, and it's still a journey. Just like you were saying, you're still healing from your own traumas, and these celebrities you talk about, are healing. And healing is a process. I actually currently have a broken wrist because no good deed goes unpunished. I was trying at Christmas time to help a drug addict, and a drug addict broke my wrist, and I'm going to have to heal, from this. And broken bones can heal, but hearts and minds take a lot longer to heal. And it's a process. And I just think bringing awareness is the best thing for it. And my next two books that are coming out in a couple of weeks, they are also prominently endorsed by very famous influencers in the abuse recovery community that have, like Paxton from Narc Abuse TV, or Ashley Burgess, Trisha Barker, Narc Survivor. There are numerous people. Anushka, Ask Anushka. I don't know if you've ever checked out her website. But there's also a wonderful woman named Sherry McGregor, who is very, very well known with parental alienation and adult child estrangement. And so they have also endorsed my book and saw value in trying to help people heal, but by bringing awareness to just this toxic situation with abuse of others.
Yeah, because I was watching TED Talk earlier today, and along the lines of your story, there was a guy called Christian Rainey, and his father, well, he says his mother's ex-husband. He
Right.
doesn't say his father. He said his mother's ex-husband. And he killed all of his siblings and his mom. And he was the only one left alive.
Wow.
And yeah, now he speaks at schools and colleges about domestic abuse and how to get away from it, how to acknowledge it. And my question is, I've always wanted to ask someone who's been in a domestic abuse relationship. My question is, how do you notice the signs? Like, how do you notice the first sign? Like, the first red flag, because for me, it was hard to notice.
No, it actually, that's why it's so very common for people to ignore red flags, because we all ignore them because we're busy in our lives. We try to think that all people are good because we're good people.
Yeah.
We are not criminals, so we don't think like a criminal. So it's very, very easy to ignore the red flags. And I would say definitely a major red flag is that you are gaslit. You are gaslit to believe that you are not good enough, that you are crazy, that you're just not seeing things correctly, that you're misinterpreting. In fact, my father even just fairly recently said something, 3 comments to me that were my light bulb moment, that I realized I was dealing with an abuser. He said, "Oh, get over it. You're too sensitive." I didn't mean anything by that, and so those kind of comments are very, very dismissive. And those are kind of like red flags that you're just made to believe that you're kind of crazy, that you are misjudging the situation. Even though you saw this, you saw it wrong. Even though you heard me say this, you interpreted it wrong. And so they discount you. Another thing is the abusers will isolate you. So little by little, the abuser will lie about your friends because they don't want you to have friends. They will say, "Oh, did you know that your girlfriend came on to me?" Well, that's not true at all. I mean, in their dreams, they wish they did, but they put down people in your life so that you will question the relationships that you have, and slowly you are isolated from your family and friends and coworkers and definitely neighbors. And so if you find yourself isolated a lot, that is definitely a red flag. The abusers do this to the adult children as well. They make the adult children feel like they're less than. They have the adult children question their own abilities. They discount them. They make them feel like, they're not worthy, that they're not capable, and that they're also reading things into it. And, they're mistaken. Just like my dad said, oh, you must be mistaken. Oh, I didn't mean anything by that. Oh, just put it behind you. Move on already. You're too sensitive. And
Yeah.
those things are, you really need to pay attention. Plus, also, abusers are very much involved with money manipulations. They believe that money is power, and they control people with money. And so they will make sure that you have no house, that you're homeless, that you have no money. All the assets you had in a bank account were taken. In my case, my abuser took over $40,000 per each child out of the children's accounts with their names on it, and eventually got it to where there were no traces. Well, I had traces because I had a forensic accountant look into all of this. But they steal. The abusers lie, cheat, and steal, but they project because they tell you that you are lying, cheating, stealing, when that's the last thing you would ever do. That's not who you are as a person. So red flags are definitely the gaslighting, the isolation, the money manipulation, and just making you feel less than.
Wow. That's like every single one of my last relationships.
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm out of those situations. Like, now that you pointed them out, and I'm thinking about my last relationship, that's why I'm looking at you like, because every single last relationship I've had, every single thing. Like, that's why I was in the hospital so many times, because I was like, maybe I'm crazy. Maybe it's me.
But you were not crazy. You were not crazy at all, Brooke. You were made to believe that you were crazy. And that's what the abusers want. They want you incapacitated. And then realize that the abuse can go both ways. This is not gender specific. There are certainly a number of women that abuse men. And so it's not gender specific, but the bottom line is the abusers are trying to build up their false sense of superiority. Lots of times these people are leaders of their companies, CEOs. They like to be in charge of people. They like to be a boss, and they feel that they know better than everyone. In fact, these abusers oftentimes win in court because they come across calm, cool, and collected when they're lying through their teeth. They can falsify documents, they forge, they misjudge things, and but they're very, very believable. They're very charismatic. Just think, we were snowed for so long, and but there is hope. There is hope with awareness. And I believe that, my 4-book series, True Deceit, False Love, will help provide some support and literature to help people survive this family abuse and trauma, and take control of their lives and live the absolute best life that they possibly can. You'll always have to be vigilant. You always have to look over your shoulder, but you'll slowly start to regain your strength. And, with knowledge, like I said, comes power. And then you start to recognize the signs. And then when you can get rid of toxic people, I mean, you might even have a best friend that, is contributing to abuse or alienation or gaslighting. You might be trauma bonded with people. And, it's you come into your own power and you realize that you are stronger than you know. And you can slowly regain your strength and find your passions. In my case, writing is a passion. But find your passions, of what makes you tick and what makes you happy, and pursue your dreams, and um, realize that you have what it takes to take care of yourself. Now, you may lose adult children in the midst of this, and in fact, unfortunately, a lot of victims lose their lives because the abusers want you dead.
Yeah.
They want you dead in the gutter. And we read about this all the time. So just a note, if I'm ever found dead, there's only one person in this world that wants me dead.
Yeah.
And, it's the abuser. And so, you have to look out for your safety, because they want their false mask hidden. They want the truth of their wrongdoings buried deep below, so that no one will know the real unethical people that they really are. They even with older parents that have tried to keep up this narrative. They can even be in their 90s and still hold on to that narrative that they were superior and they're a victim. And, oh, I had to have affairs because, your mother was so mentally ill or something like that.
Make up excuses and lies.
Right. It's kind of like, I remember hearing at one point, how can you blame me? I did the best that I could. And oh goodness, I'm sorry it took me so long, but that's part of our journeys. And I think having these conversations, having podcasts like yours, which is just fantastic. You touch on all sorts of great topics with so many different people. And, having these conversations help bring awareness so that people can live a better life for themselves and get away from the toxicity.
Yeah, it's tough to get away from the toxic people. Like one of the ladies I interviewed, Chelsea, hers was the one that made me cry on camera because her parents locked her in a cage for I think 7 years. So she was in a cage in the basement. And when she told me her parents, didn't go to jail, they're not in jail, and try to contact her, I'm like, I really want to hurt your parents. Like, I really do. And she's like, I don't even consider them parents.
No, and you know what? You don't want to stoop to the level of the evil people, because that's not who we are in our heart and soul. We are good, honest, caring, empathetic people. We do not need to stoop low and be the evil that these other people are. At some point, they will be reconciled with God.
That's true. That's what my grandma told me. My 72-year-old grandma told me that just today. She was because I had a problem at work with someone that you just described. I had a problem at work, and she was like, just pray about it. You'll be okay. It happened today. Tomorrow's a new day.
And actually, my website, I'm not on social media because I wanted to spend more time writing. And then when I'm not writing, I want to enjoy the Caribbean where I live. But my website is www.godcametomygarage-sale.com, which is the name of my first spiritual fiction. And what ends up happening, that story is about an atheist woman who loses everything, but ends up having to have a garage sale. And some miracles happened that opened up her heart and mind, that there were signs and synchronicities from the universe. And even though it's a spiritual fiction, and it just won the 2020 Best Books Award, and it was endorsed by James Redfield, who wrote the Celestine Prophecy. So it's really done very well. But the thing is that, good things can happen if you sometimes you have to go through the darkness in order to see and appreciate the light. And when you do that, sometimes you will be shown some miracles. I actually was shown some miracles. Even though it's a spiritual fiction, it was inspired by a lot of true experiences. And there were miracles that happened when I really got to a very low point in my life. But instead of having feelings of negativity or sadness or anger or revenge, I just had feelings of just pure love, just love in my heart and goodness for God. And because of that, I was shown some miracles, and people that have had near-death experiences, that have actually physically died in a car accident or a operation or something like that, who have come back to life, come back with the understanding that we are all, in the vibration of love and goodness. And that's the highest vibration. And with that love, goodness will prevail. Justice does not always prevail in our court system, unfortunately. But like you said, with that unfortunate woman who was locked in a cage for all those years by her parents, and there's no consequences for them. It's just mind-blowing, the injustices. But if anything that we have seen the last 2 years, there can be a lot of corruption and deceit and dishonesty, and people get away with it, but eventually good prevails.
That's true. Wow, that is true. I love that. That's really great advice. Like, yeah, I like that. I like that. I'm gonna start using that every day because it does help.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
I want to thank you so much, Dr. Marni, for coming on my podcast today and chatting with me.
Well, thank you so much, Brooke. It's just been an absolute pleasure to follow you, to check out all your other videos and interviews, and just keep on doing what you're doing, because you're changing the lives of so many people. And thank you for highlighting my book, True Deceit, False Love. The next 2 volumes are going to be out in a couple of weeks. They are with Hay House Balboa Press. So I look forward to helping a lot of other people while I heal myself.
Oh, I love that. It's amazing. I do want to have one final question before. So, can we get like a package deal of all the series? I mean, all of your books in one?
That's a really good question. Unfortunately, the publishing company that I use, Hay House Balboa Press, does not put out sets. So, but like, for example, the first book is $15.55. And the other books are very, very reasonable. And you can get e-versions for $3.99. So if you go on my website, which is www.godcametomygaragesale.com, you can see all the books that are out there. I also am a contributing author to 5 different anthology books, and just signed up for one more called Passing the Pearls with Tammy Morrison. It's about honoring our grandmothers and sharing the wisdom that we have learned from our grandparents, from our grandmothers specifically. So check out my website, and but no, unfortunately, they don't sell my books as a set, but they're very easy to pick up together.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you so much. You have a great day.
Okay. Take care.
Bye.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.